Hey, Grace Bible. As you know, we've been talking a lot about marriage around here the last couple of months, especially the last two Sundays. And I wanted to come to you today to come up behind a challenge I gave our church this past Sunday in case you weren't here. And it was a challenge 2 weeks ago to wives and a challenge this past Sunday to husbands. We challenged you wives that there's 5 ways you can say I love you to your husband, right from Ephesians chapter 5. And husbands, there are 5 ways, 5 things you can do to show love to your wife. Wanted to give you those real quick and then give you a challenge that I gave us this past Sunday. For you wives, I wanted to challenge you to say I love you to your husband by doing these 5 things, by admiring him, by accepting him, by supporting him, by trusting him, and by forgiving him. For further conversation about those things, feel free to listen to that sermon from 2 weeks ago. And you husbands have an opportunity practically to tell your wife that you love her. And you love her by protecting her, by choosing her, by preferring her, by preparing her, and by cherishing her as your number one responsibility and desire, as the number one love in your life. Now here's the challenge. In the next week or two, I dare you, you husbands, to initiate a date night with your wife. Go on a walk, go out to dinner, get out of the house, get away from the normalness of life, and have a conversation. And the question I gave you wives was to ask your husband, do you feel loved and respected by me? A question that comes right from Paul's heart in Ephesians chapter 5. And then for you husbands to be honest and to share what your heart is feeling and give your wife an answer to the question she asked you. And you wives, listen in a spirit of kindness and humility and a desire to become one with your husband to what he says. And then husbands, you in turn ask your wife, do you feel loved and cherished by me? Do you feel like you're my number one priority? And wives, you be honest, and husbands, you listen, not to platform anger or resentment, but for the benefit of growth and intimacy in your marriage, because God wants you to flourish in your relationship. So I challenge you in the next 2 weeks, go on a date, have this conversation, and trust that as you do and as you obey God in this moment, you'll grow and your relationship will become all that God has intended it to be. And that's our desire. And I'd love to hear back about how it goes. I'll pray that grace and beauty will emerge from your willingness to have these critical conversations. God bless you, and I hope it goes great.